They get what they deserve. They're all about profits, corporations. That kind of sentiment, which you expect to pop up in a free-for-all kind of exchange in a country of 330 million people. But you would think that wiser commentators would stand back from it a bit and would not wallow in this thing. The other big story in New York City of the last week is the assassination of a chief executive officer of United Healthcare by someone who has been alleged to have done it. And there seems to be a fair amount of evidence to that effect, and he's in custody. And there's a controversy that has emerged about how people have reacted to the assassination, with the assailant getting a lot more sympathetic reactions, perhaps, than is justifiable, but that is taken to be an expression of the deep dissatisfaction that many people have with the healthcare system and with the insurance companies' management of their portfolios, the discretion that they exercise over people's access to care and, delay, deny, etc. What do you make of that? Your paper has been covering it extensively. I saw this morning a summary of all of the op-eds and editorial commentary that has been printed there. You got thoughts about that?
It kind of comes back to that business of demonizing the other side. It's one thing to hate the healthcare system. It's another thing to understand that the people participating in it need not be seen as themselves driving the injustice just because in the abstract sense they're part of it. It's kind of like the white person who's supposed to feel like they are responsible for societal racism because they live in the society. It's a forced Robin DiAngelo kind of argument that people pretend to agree with. Same thing here. And so you watch this man who's a father, and a spouse, killed in cold blood, no expectation. He's just gone. And you cheer, especially because he's a white man. If it was a black man, people would not be cheering, even if he worked for the healthcare system. If he's white, then it's okay to...
I'm not so sure about that,
cheer.
But okay.
Imagine if it was, just imagine that man black, and he's killed on the street. I think people would hold back because he was brown-skinned. I'm picturing just randomly Ben Carson, although he's a little older now. And I'm not saying that Ben Carson, I have any problem with him or anything. But if somebody of that, like that,
okay,
got shot. And so, but then also you saw this online kind of, I'm losing a word, this online glorification of the shooter, including, finding him sexy. And, there was a contest already this week in the city with people dressing up to be him and things like that. And really, it's as if people think of all this as a kind of sport. They're looking at it all with a kind of irony. And I think that's social media's fault. It lets you see too much too often, and you end up having kind of a distance from what you should really be thinking of as real life. It's the same thing as peak woke having partly been about everything going on Slack and Zoom, where you've got this distance that encourages a sort of tribalism and a dehumanization of people. So, it's been a scary week in New York, just thinking about what happened to Jordan Neely, worrying that Daniel Neely was about to have his life ruined for something that he did by accident. And then somebody getting killed in cold blood on the street, and people on social media cheering the killer and cheering at this man's death. I'm not usually given to melodrama, but I was thinking this week, where are we? What have we come to that all of these things are happening? It can be very, very frustrating. Crazy violent people in the subway. Daniel Penny is, basically a white lyncher, and there's controversy over this. And then an executive gets killed in cold blood on the street. People applaud and start putting up sexy pictures of his killer. What a week,
Well, there's a sentiment out there. I think it was exemplified by something I saw. Brianna Joy Gray, the podcaster with Nathan Robinson, I think that's his name.
She makes such a fool of herself about Israel. I can say nothing but that. And Nathan Robinson is literally the most obnoxious interviewer I have ever encountered. He's a loathsome little creature. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I don't know that I agree about Israel. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I know she has arch views. But Robinson certainly lived up to the billing that you just gave him in this particular segment that I'm talking about. And they were talking, kind of laughing behind their hands, kind of smugly. They were saying, oh, of course, we don't endorse violence. But isn't it curious and interesting how many people, for example, think the guy, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name.
Luigi Mangione.
Luigi Mangione is sexy. That he has a kind of heroic coloration to him that he's somehow standing in for. Again, they would be quick to say we don't endorse the violence, but and then there's the facial expressions. There's the kind of laughing behind the hand kind of thing that going, and it really it turned my stomach. I didn't care for it at all. I thought it was small. I thought it was so small. I thought they had crawled into the hole that the social media nutcase posters, the people who put up comments to explicitly celebrate the act, because after all, health insurance companies are bad people. In the U.S., we ought to have universal health care. We ought to have Medicare for all. We don't have it. They get what they deserve. They're all about profits. Corporations. That kind of sentiment, which you expect to pop up in a free-for-all kind of exchange in a country of 330 million people. But you would think that wiser commentators would stand back from it a bit and would not wallow in this thing. I mean, after all, somebody is going to have to say no sometime to somebody's request for health care. Whether it's an insurance company that has a bottom line that they're trying to protect, or it's a bureaucrat who's administering a national health service thing and is saying, no, that particular treatment, you can't have it, or you can't have it for 6 months or whatever. There's going to be frustration because there are limited resources, and those resources have to be rationed, and everybody can't get everything that they want now. So it's kind of, I'm not endorsing every insurance company's decision in every case. That's not my point. My point is that life means limited resources, and that applies to healthcare as well as everything else. Everybody's not going to get every treatment that they want all the time because the resources are limited, period. You think there's not going to be rationing of access to healthcare in a system which is not run by private insurance companies? There is going to be, because, again, surgeons' time is limited. Drugs are costly. Everybody is not going to get Ozempic. It's $1,000 a month. It could be life-saving. Who are you going to blame for the fact that whatever the rationing mechanism is, they don't universally hand out something that costs $1,000 a month? They're going to ration it based upon an assessment of the imperative to have this treatment as a part of a larger vision about providing health care. There's always going to be disappointment in that. You don't think in the National Health Service in Britain people are disappointed by the decisions that get made, et cetera. So anyway, I ramble. Brianna Joy Gray and Nathan Robinson really upset me a little bit by the smugness and the glee. There was a Schadenfreude, I guess is what you want to call it. There was a suppressed kind of a celebration of this thing. And do we want to live in a world in which radical anarchists go around taking out CEOs of companies? What about the housing crisis and foreclosing on loans of people who can't pay their mortgages? Do those executives deserve to be assassinated, etc.?